Cellcraft is an educational game offered by Congregate. The player must save the platypus species by helping build a complete cell designed to survive in a hostile environment. The player begins with a basic cell structure that he or she must develop and strengthen throughout the game. As resources are acquired, technical functions and roles inside the cell are briefly explained. An encyclopedia further shows how these resources function in the game versus real life. Animal figures point out objectives and explain how to strengthen and nourish the cell. As the cell grows, new levels are reached, and players receive grades for their achievements. This is followed by short, humorous movies expressing the imminent danger of the platypus. At the start of each level, key terms from the last level are pointed out. As the cell becomes more complex, so does the game, as the player is challenged to find fuel and nutrients for the cell. The game points out that collecting nutrients such as nucleic acid help the cell to produce RNA, which then builds protein. The cell is frequently attacked by viruses, the basic cold at first, and players must use acquired knowledge and gaming skills to survive. The animals discuss the type of virus attacking the cell and how the cell is being affected. The game suggests the best defense against the virus, and the player must remember which part of the cell produces the defense. The music increases as the cell is attacked. A survived virus attack usually ends in a reward of a level up or a newly acquired producing part of the cell. The more complex the function of the cell, the more fully it is described on screen. And if the players need further explanation, they can always refer to the encyclopedia. The game frequently reminds you of how you might die. Cellcraft is engaging and educational on several fronts. The descriptions of each part of the cell and the ways they help the cell survive are all tied nicely together as the game becomes more complex. The player learns to utilize certain parts of the cell to survive attacks and is often provided with instant feedback if the attack is survived. One attack is sometimes followed by another, and the player has to recall which combination of functions will keep the cell alive. The encyclopedia not only helps keep the player alive, but it provides educational value regarding cell activity. The higher the level reached, the bigger the encyclopedia becomes, providing the player with a survival guide of sorts. However, even that isn't always enough, as once the game becomes too complex, it becomes difficult to choose the proper combinations when saving the cell. Once overwhelmed by the virus, the cell explodes across the screen. Now, lower performance rates flash before them, and the players are left hitting the retry button. Through some persistence, redemption can be found, but in my case, only to a certain extent. While there are 8 levels to play on Cellcraft, I could not get beyond level 6. In one case, I lost my mitochondria, and as the encyclopedia informed me, I needed that to produce adenosine triphosphate molecules, or energy providers. Once my ATPs were gone, my cell would become inactive and unable to move. However, in most cases, it was the pesky, virus-creating Jeeves that proved to be my downfall. Despite the objectives, suggested strategies, and use of the encyclopedia, I could never figure out how to defeat the level. To this extent, the game's elevated levels of difficulty would likely encourage players to continually return to the game while simultaneously becoming increasingly knowledgeable about cell growth and development. In my case, the fate of the platypus has been determined, but for the rest of the world, the possibilities may be endless.